In this broadcast, we highlight the news making waves, ranging from current affairs to community stories, sports and economic news. Here are the headlines. Ondangwa electrification project advances. Finance Minister tables Namibia's national budget. And meningitis outbreak kills 17 students in Nigeria. I am Ashwin Berry and this is NMH at 1. Follow all our programs on oneup2.com or DSTV 285 and GoTV 25 in Namibia. Let's head to the midday news update. $206 million worth of cocaine seized from one shipment at the Walvis Bay port in 2018 was destroyed this morning at the National Forensic Science Institute. That is Namibian dollars. Visual News highlights stories from across Namibia after the break.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
In visual news, Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi yesterday tabled Namibia's national budget, which included a 45.3% increase for the Sports and Youth Ministry and a huge injection into the Education Ministry. Pensioners received a $200 Namibian increase on their allowance, bringing it to $1,600 Namibian per month. Finance and Public Enterprise, Education, Arts and Culture, Health and Social Services, Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare, as well as Home Affairs, Immigration and Safety, were the 5 ministries with the biggest chunk of the national budget.
$15.4 billion has been allocated to the basic education, arts and culture vote in 2024-2025 and $56.1 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework. The budget of the Ministry of Gender, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare has increased by 23.2% to $8 billion for the next financial year. The budget includes $824.7 million to maintain the real value of the social safety net in the face of high inflation and given the high dependency ratio. Accordingly, the old age grant and disability grant will be increased from $1,400 to $1,600 per annum. We hear you. Okay. Honorable Speaker, we fully recognize the dream of our departed President for a significant increase in the old age grant, but we cannot afford to deliver on his dream in a single financial year. Nonetheless, we will continue to work hard towards this goal with gradual increases over time as resources permit. In addition, we have made provision to increase the frequency of food distribution to marginalized communities at the cost of $170 million and $284.5 million to ensure full coverage of the orphan and vulnerable children, those that who have registered for this grant. Over the medium-term expenditure framework, the vote will absorb $24.5 billion. For the youth, the vote of sports, The younger parliamentarians, let's listen to this one. This is for the youth now, so the youth will punish you if you are not listening to this one. The vote of sports, youth and national service has increased by 45.3% to 679.4 million in the next financial year, and a total of 2.2 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework. Allocations have been made to various youth programs to support with skills.
The national budget continues to make headlines in local daily newspapers. We have a closer look at the numbers as well as highlight other stories from Namibia's dailies after this short break.
Hi Sonia.
Hi Tufeni. What are you reading?
I'm reading about the Child Care and Protection Act. In this pamphlet I got from school.
What's that?
It is Namibia's main law for the children and the issues affecting them. The act classifies here that a child is anyone under the age of 18 years. Check out some of the rights meant to protect you. For more information, contact the Children's Advocate.
For more information, contact the Children's Advocate Namibia in the Office of the Ombudsman on 061 20 73 111. Send us an SMS on 20401. SMS costs 40 cents. You can also send us a message via our Facebook page. Remember, the services of the Children's Advocate are free of charge.
Getting into the newspaper review, government's first post-Gengob national budget is expansionary in nature and includes a 5% salary hike for civil servants and a once-off tax legacy write-off, signaling a departure from the fiscal tightrope the state has had to walk over a 9-year period. The budget also makes provision for a $200 Namibian upward adjustment in the grant payable to pensioners, which currently stands at $1,400 Namibian per month. Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission of Namibia will receive an allocation of $438 million Namibian to ensure smooth and timely voter registration, as well as to undertake the presidential and National Assembly elections towards the end of the year, Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi said. Now, the Namibia National Teachers Union is facing threats of deregistration following repeated requests from the Labour Ministry for it to submit outstanding annual returns for scrutiny. Namibian Sun understands that the union is making last-ditch efforts to avoid deregistration after originally being given until the 23rd of February to get its house in order. Union members are said to be in panic mode over concerns that the ministry will proceed with Nantu's deregistration. Now we move over to Republican. Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi tabled a budget of almost 97 billion Namibian dollars yesterday, which provides for millions upon millions in tax exemptions, a 5% increase in the salaries of civil servants, and a massive write-off of tax arrears from state-owned enterprises. This is the first time since the beginning of the late President Hage Gengob's reign that the government's appetite for spending has been so stimulated. Pensioners' burden has been eased with an increase from 200 to 1,400 Namibian dollars in state pension. The threshold for tax exemption on personal taxes has been increased from 50,000 to 100,000 Namibian dollars per year and comes into effect tomorrow. The trial run for employees in Namibia to work only 4 days a week is getting closer. This pilot project will make Namibia only the second country in Africa and one of a handful in the world which will practically test the appropriateness of a 4-day work week in April. 4-Day Week Global recently announced that after its successful trials in South Africa, it now wants to implement the same concept in Namibia. The international movement's Namibian partner, Jonas Ileka, will bring the 180-100 concept to Namibia, which involves doing 100% of the work in 80% of the time at 100% salary. Now we move over to Allgemeine Zeitung. Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi is getting rid of unnecessary administrative burdens by raising the threshold for tax liability and the registration requirement for VAT levies. He is also setting priorities for investors by lowering corporate taxes and considering a free trade zone. He is using the obvious leeway strategically, even increasing the state pension. We move over to the page 3 of Agamana Zeitung. The annual general meeting of the PMA-ESA Port Authorities Association emphasized the importance of its role in promoting sustainable development and economic growth in the maritime sector of Eastern and Southern Africa. Stay with us as we continue with the Namibia newspaper shortly.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
We continue with the newspaper review. The Namibian also reports on the tabling of the national budget by Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi yesterday. Now, according to the paper, Shimi has been accused of tabling an election-centered budget which attempts to sway, among others, pensioners, students and low-income earners to SWAPO in the upcoming presidential and National Assembly elections. The massive 100 billion Namibian dollar budget is the largest in the history of Namibia's democracy and comes during an election year in which both voter apathy and the current economic challenges were expected to impact SWAPO's votes, the paper writes. On page 3, Popular Democratic Movement leader McHenry Venani says young people, especially in rural areas, are living off old age pensions. He says little economic activity takes place in rural areas, resulting in no job opportunities for young people, despite being skilled. Now, in New Era, Finance and Public Enterprises Minister Ipumbu Shimi stunned friends and foe yesterday when he unveiled a 100.1 billion Namibian dollar national budget. The budget represents an increase of 12.4% from the revised estimates of the preceding year. The budget was tabled under the theme continuing the legacy of His Excellency Dr. Hageji Gengob by caring for the Namibian child. Its provision is to safeguard livelihoods and guard against excess reversals on gains made in the social sectors. Now, SWAPO party veteran Pendukeni Vula-Etana expressed regret over an unresolved rift with her mentor, the late President Hage Gengob. Their once strong bond fractured during the heated competition for the party's top seat in 2017. In that year's SWAPO Congress, the ruling party was divided into Team Harambe and Team SWAPO. Now, as a member of Team SWAPO, Vula-Etana and Jerry Ekanjo teamed up with former Prime Minister Naha Sangula to take on Gengob's slate. In 2018, Vula-Etana and Ekanjo was sacked from Gengob's cabinet. Now we move over to Market Watch, where global growth is projected at 3.1% this year and 3.2% in 2025, the International Monetary Fund said yesterday afternoon. This year's forecast is 0.2 percentage points higher than what it would be in IMF's World Economic Outlook last year. This is on account of greater than expected resilience in the United States and several larger emerging market and developing economies, as well as fiscal support in China. Now, the Ondangwa Council has provided 300 electrical connections and is working on connecting around 153 households. Details on this coming up in Economic News.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Let's get into economic news stories. As the Omahenene electrification project in Ondangwa advances, the council hosted a community meeting on Tuesday to inform affected residents of the procedures that will be used to connect their houses. Now, the project, funded by the Mines and Energy Ministry and executed by NORAD, was initially scheduled to be implemented in the 2020-2021 financial year, but due to COVID-19, it was rescheduled to take place between September 2023 and January this year. Ondangwa Town spokesperson Petrina Shitalangalo Mutikisha said council provided 300 electrical connections and is currently working on connecting around 153 households. Omahenene is one of the oldest informal settlements in Ondangwa and is classified as a low-income area. Now, Shitalangalo Mutikisha added that the process of household connections has started and homeowners who qualify for household connections will get connected. They will be required to have a letter of recommendation from the council with matching details of what is on their certified copy of the Namibian identification document, she explained. Overall, the importance of house electrical connections cannot be overstated, as they are integral to the safety, functionality and comfort of modern homes, Shitalangalo Mutikisha added. Stay with us as we head over to the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 19.20 next to the US dollar, 20.78 Namibian dollars gets you €1. First Rand Namibia is down minus 0.50%, whilst Lesego Holdings Namibia managed an uptick alongside Namibia Breweries Limited. Now, Oryx Properties is plus 1.70%, local index close plus 0.12%. Gold made a dip and is currently trading at 2,035.12 per ounce, with copper plus 0.30%. Now, at least 17 school children across 5 schools in Nigeria's northeastern Yobe state have died after an outbreak of meningitis. Stay with us.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
At least 17 school children across 5 schools in Nigeria's northeastern Yobe state have died after an outbreak of meningitis, authorities have confirmed. Among the deceased are students in primary schools and others in boarding secondary schools, the State Commissioner for Education, Mohammed Sani Idris, told the BBC. A total of 473 suspected cases have been recorded so far, he said. Meningitis is an infection which causes an acute inflammation of the outer layers of the brain and spinal cord. It can be life-threatening unless diagnosed and treated early. Vaccination is an effective way of preventing meningitis. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention had earlier in the year put out a public health advisory on the disease. It highlighted that the dry season could increase the risk of infection, especially with crowding and poor ventilation. Most cases of the disease in Nigeria are reported in what has been termed the meningitis belt, which covers all 19 states of the northern region. Now, victims of Ugandan warlord Dominic Ongwen have been awarded more than 52 million euros by the International Criminal Court. The order covers almost 50,000 people, including former child soldiers and children born out of rapes and forced marriages. Ongwen was a ruthless rebel commander in the Lord's Resistance Army. He is currently serving a 25-year prison term in Norway for multiple war crimes and crimes against humanity. He was originally abducted as a child and forced to join the LRA, but went on to become one of the leaders of the notorious rebel group. During his trial, his argument that he should also be treated as a victim was rejected by the court. The crimes were committed by his rebel fighters in northern Uganda in the early 2000s as part of the extensive compensation package. Everyone who suffered directly or otherwise as a result of what presiding Judge Bertram Schmidt described as Ongwen's unimaginable atrocities will be awarded €750. Now, Judge Schmidt described physical, moral, material, community and transgenerational harm and explains the remainder of the $56 billion would constitute collective reparations to be invested in projects designed to rehabilitate and rebuild broken lives. Let's head over to international news. In international news, a Guatemalan court on Wednesday convicted 7 soldiers for their roles in the killing of 6 indigenous protesters in 2012, while a colonel and other soldiers were acquitted. More than a decade later, Wednesday's ruling was seen as partial justice by family members of the victims of Guatemalans, described as the first state massacre to occur since the nation's bloody civil war ended in the 90s. Of those convicted, 6 of the soldiers were found guilty of bodily injury caused in a fight, while another was convicted of murder. A judge presiding over the case ruled that the bodily injury charge was the most appropriate for the majority, as witnesses could not prove that those soldiers were the ones out of their group who killed the protesters. They were sentenced to nearly 8 years in prison, while the soldier found guilty of murder was sentenced to more than 9. On October 4, 2012, hundreds of members of the indigenous organization 48 Cantons of Toton and Nikapan blocked a section of the Pan American Highway, protesting high electricity costs and the closure of a teachers' college. 6 Maya Kishe men were killed and more than 34 other protesters injured by security forces that day, though versions of how the violence began were initially conflicting. And South Korea's government is threatening to take legal action against thousands of striking junior doctors and revoke their medical licenses if they do not return to work on Thursday. Around 3/4 of the country's junior doctors have walked out of their jobs over the past week, causing disruption and delays to surgeries at major teaching hospitals. The trainee doctors are protesting government plans to admit drastically more medical students to university each year, to increase the number of doctors in the system. Now, South Korea has one of the lowest doctor-to-patient ratios among developed countries, and with a rapidly aging population, the government is warning there will be an acute shortage within a decade. The empty corridors of St. Mary's Hospital in Seoul this week give a glimpse of what the future might look like. There was barely a doctor or patient to be seen in the triage area outside the emergency room, with patients warned to stay away. Ryo Okhada, a 25-year-old doctor, and his colleagues have not been to work at the hospital for over a week. It feels weird not getting up at 4 a.m., Ryu said. The junior doctor told the BBC he was used to working more than 100 hours a week, often for 40 hours without sleep. It's insane how much we work for such little pay, he said. News from the world of sport follows the break.
Hi, Kambaripa.
Hi, Melissa.
You look upset. Is everything okay?
A healthcare worker refused to attend to me because I visited the healthcare facility without a guardian.
Healthcare workers are not allowed to do that. This sounds like a job for your shield of survival.
Huh?
Your rights, they're your superpowers. Your shield of survival is your right to life, health, nutrition, shelter, and an adequate standard of living.
For more information, contact the Children's Advocate Namibia in the Office of the Ombudsman on 061 20 73 111. Send us an SMS on 20401. SMS costs 40 cents. You can also send us a message via our Facebook page. Remember, the services of the Children's Advocate are free of charge.
In local sport, the Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises, Ipumbu Shimi, announced the allocation of $679.4 million Namibian dollars to the Ministry of Sports, Youth and Social Services for the 2024-25 financial year. This represents an increase of 45.3% from last year. As far as the Directorate of Sport is concerned, the increase is from 22.9 to 42 million Namibian dollars. This was revealed when Shimi tabled the 84.1 billion national budget in the National Assembly yesterday, under the theme Continuing the Legacy of His Excellency President Hage Geingob by Caring for the Namibian Child. Allocations have been made to various youth programs to support with skills development as well as capacity building. The allocation caters for, among others, skills development courses for out-of-school youth training through the charcoal and mushroom production programs, as well as funding for the Youth Credit Scheme. Now, financing for 121 youth enterprises across all constituencies, as well as youth skills development through the National Youth Service, will also be getting funding. Now, it's all systems go for yet another exciting horse racing event at the garden town of Okahanja, which will be this coming weekend, as some of the country's finest horses battle for top prizes and bragging rights for the event worth 300,000 Namibian dollars. The MTC Horse Racing Derby will take place this Saturday at the famous Okahanja Turf Club, which has seen dramatic outcomes in recent years. One of the event organizers, Iman Freikang, is optimistic that the competition will produce thrills and spills, as many horse racing lovers are expected to flock the town to watch the first major event of the year. And Dricus Coetzee, who recently took on the incomparable Atlas mountain race over 1,350 kilometers in Morocco, is a true Namibian hero that inspires people far outside the borders of his own country. After 4 days and 4 nights in the saddle and pushing well beyond the limits of human effort, Coetzee, also known as The Machine, unfortunately had to call it quits, but not without establishing himself as a serious upcoming force in international ultra-endurance competitions. Due to dehydration, severe exhaustion, malnutrition, lack of sleep, as well as hallucinations, he lost consciousness approximately 58 kilometers before the finish line. He got up and rode about 500 meters further before his body completely gave out. A local passerby found him lying on the roadside in a shady spot under a small tree and called the main event organizer. Let's head over to international sport. Manchester United will host Liverpool in an FA Cup quarter-final blockbuster after the bitter rivals took contrasting routes to their 5th round victories on Wednesday. United eased the pressure on beleaguered boss Erik ten Hag as they scraped through with a 1-0 win at Nottingham Forest thanks to Casemiro's late goal. Now fresh from their League Cup final triumph against Chelsea on Sunday, Liverpool relied on their youngsters again in a 3-0 win against second-tier Southampton at Anfield. Now, Owen Farrell said on Wednesday he felt nervous at telling Saracens that he wanted to leave, having been associated with the English Premiership club since he was a teenager. French side Racing 92 announced last month that former England captain Farrell will join them at the end of the season on a 2-year deal. Moving to Paris will make the fly half ineligible for England selection, as the Rugby Football Union prevents players at foreign clubs being chosen for international duty. And Kylian Mbappe will face former club Monaco for the final time as a Paris Saint-Germain player on Friday, provided coach Luis Enrique selects his star player. Those have been our sports news. Stay with us as we head over to the highlights. All right, thank you for staying with NMH at 1 as we have been bringing you the pertinent stories, particularly focusing on the national budget, which was tabled by Honorable Ipumbu Shimi yesterday. This has been NMH at 1. My name is Ashwin Berry. See you tomorrow.